Joining us now from Richmond, Congressman Dave Brat. Dave, it's good to have you with us, sir.
Hey, great to be on, man. I can't believe you're putting down my Minnesota Vikings. You say Brady's superhuman. That's true, but the Vikings had a miracle.
They did have a miracle.
Maybe
I mean, no way they win that game. All they have to do, Congressman, 10 seconds, right? No timeouts. They just have to keep the ball in bounds. The game's over. That's all they have to do.
I know. But the Vikings goofed it up, too. I mean, with like 3 minutes left, they raced it down the field, kicked a field goal, and left 2.5 minutes for another great quarterback, Breeze.
Yeah, New Orleans is tough. But imagine being the Saints and having to take that long flight back from Minneapolis to New Orleans. I mean, the game was theirs, right?
Yep.
They had come back. It was theirs. The game was over. 10 seconds, no timeouts, and unbelievable. But look, Vikings are tough, but now they got to go on the road, and we'll see what happens.
That's going to be brutal.
Yeah, Philadelphia's just got a great defense. I mean, you saw it on Saturday evening. So we'll see what plays out. So, Congressman, happy Martin Luther King Day. Good to have you with us.
You too. You too.
We're with Dave Brat, Republican Congressman, 7th District of Virginia. The Trump economy booming along. Nowhere in the news has it been told about Chrysler, who is building, making a $1.5 billion, that's with a B, investment in Michigan, building a new plant, hiring 2,500 workers, good paying jobs, and giving 60,000 of their workers a bonus based on the tax cut. I didn't see that anywhere in any of the shows on Sunday. You?
No, I watch all the Sunday shows as well. I mean, they're getting into a well-established pattern. And so, if President Trump, he's got to learn when he's got a Durbin in the room, every word is on a hot mic. And, I mean, it's amazing when Durbin and Graham, get together and don't get their way, you see what happens. And so that the president's got to learn, and he's got to clean up the language, et cetera, so we don't have to go through this over and over.
Well, yeah, I think everything should be taped, and that way there's no dispute. My take is, and I said this on CNN, Congressman, he probably said that or something close to it, because when it was first reported, if he didn't say that, the White House press office would have immediately gone crazy and said it was a lie. They didn't, and now it's kind of a day late and a dollar short, and I don't think it matters if he said it or kind of said it, but it's the economics of it. And why don't we talk about the economics of it? Because I think what the president was really saying is, look, in order to grow our economy, I've said this from the day I came down the escalator, we have to go to an immigration system that is based on merit and based on need, economic need, so that if we have an opening for general practitioner doctors, they get priority. If we have an opening for pipe fitters, they get priority. If we need a certain category in the economy that we can't fulfill with the employment availability we have, those take priority. That's what Canada does. That's what Australia does. Why is it so bad for us to do that?
Well, it's not, and I mean it just shows you on the debate, right? And the left doesn't get it both ways, right? The folks they say are coming here are all college, grads and super talented, et cetera. And if that's the case, if they are that productive, that they're a net addition to the economy here, then it also holds they'd be very good, extremely valuable back in the home country. And you never hear the press on that one, right? I used to work at the World Bank, and one of the problems they have in the developing countries is just the brain drain. Skilled people do come out of the home countries, and it's kind of like our welfare problem we have here. What happens when you have the brain drain from developing countries? They're left with a dictator over the folks that aren't educated and need to fight off that dictator. And so we've had just 40-year cycles of this. And then, of course, the World Bank and IMF and the international organizations never solve the real problem that needs to be solved. They'll talk about I worked in the poverty section, education section. I'm in favor of all of that, right?
Right.
I spent a couple of years of my life doing it, and more than that at some other agencies and interfaith groups, et cetera. But the one thing they will never accept is the only thing that'll fix it, which is freedom and a free market economy. Mm. If you have a dictator handing out sectors of the economy to their cousins and uncles and whatever, and doling out patronage, right? That's what's going on, is patronage systems. across Latin America, sub-Saharan Africa, et cetera, and it's hard to fight that off. It's hard to fight it off in this country, right? We're going in that direction where you just keep doling out more and more of the federal government to your buddies. And that is the threat to economic growth and the welfare of people throughout all of human history. The central regimes used to be nothing but a patronage system, and you had zero economic growth, roughly speaking, for all of human history until we finally got it right. And so, yeah, my heart goes out. I worked I went to seminary first and then wanted to work for the poorest of the poor
right.
In the world. And today is the celebration of Martin Luther King, in some ways the end point of that conversation, the Western synthesis between human reason and the Judeo-Christian tradition. And talk about the press goofing it up. They never acknowledge the most probably salient point of Martin Luther King. He had a Ph.D. in Protestant theology.
Right.
It's not an accident that he was that eloquent with that much content, and he had the entire Western lexicon and canon at his disposal, and just put it as beautifully as anyone because he studied and he knew it. And our kids, we're not teaching the kids any of that Western tradition right now, which would benefit every human being across the globe. And so today is a great celebration. I wrote on Martin Luther King. I wrote chapters on him. He read Reinhold Niebuhr, one of my favorite theologians out of Detroit, liberal Protestant. He read Gandhi. They all read each other. This is the days when liberal arts education meant the liberal arts. Everybody knew everything, right? They all read each other. And today, no one, I don't think our kids could cite any of those major characters or the major thought systems they believed in. So today's a great day where we can remind our kids and get them read the good stuff again.
No question about it. Dr. Brat, let's get to DACA, government shutdown, January 19th. Today's January 15th. We have 5 days. What's going to happen?
Well, a week ago, it looked pretty sure we were going to do just another CR, and I think we are until March. And then the DACA debate, of course, is front and center in the middle of that. And so prior to last week, it didn't look like DACA was going to be in the middle of it. Paul Ryan has said in the press, to his credit, numerous times, we're not going to tie the DACA deal to a must-pass vote on an omnibus budget or on a CR, a continuing resolution. And so that's a good thing because that DACA debate needs to be a debate. And so Lindsey Graham and Durbin the other day when they came in the office, the reason the meeting went haywire, to put it mildly, is because their proposal was so absurd, right? They wanted not the DACA, they wanted DACA plus. DACA's $800,000. They wanted a $2 million plus up in exchange for getting rid of a $50,000 program called the Visa Lottery, which is a terrible program. But the numbers aren't even in the ballpark. And even on the Visa Lottery program, they didn't want to do the full 50. They wanted to parcel off half of that number to something else. So you had a $2 million versus 50,000 comparison, and that's the way the left always deals. It's never a fair deal when we own the House and the Senate and the White House. So it can't get any more bizarre than that. The Goodlatte bill is the basic bill that has the core content in it, right? It ends chain migration. The numbers work out on balance in favor of the American worker. It's got E-Verify in there because once you allow 800,000 into the U.S., right, after they come in illegally, and if you allow them a pathway to a new status, then the green light is on for the whole world. The whole world has just seen that you've done, what is commonly called an amnesty, in the sense that, hey, the American people are great people. They're generous. Once you make it in there, you're gold, right? The American people will let you stay.
Right.
They got big hearts.
Sure.
And then you got an 8 billion person problem, and that is the real problem that never comes up because it's so obvious, but the left doesn't want to acknowledge that.
Look, you can't even have a debate now when basically what several of the networks said, led by CNN, which is my network, said basically if you voted for President Trump, if you support his policies, if you're one of his surrogates, if you work in the White House, if you defend any of his programs, if you believe in Trumponomics, you're a racist. Doesn't matter whether it's working or not, you're a racist. I mean, that was a sweeping indictment. So therefore, it crowds out any ability to have any kind of a meaningful discussion, debate, conversation, dialogue, anything. Substance doesn't matter. The issues don't matter. Results don't matter. Economics doesn't matter. Math doesn't matter. All that matters now is emotion and buzzwords. And having gone through this debate here in the last 3 days on CNN and what I've experienced, I just can't believe it. I mean, we can't even get now where we can have a conversation about immigration reform because it's been turned upside down on this nonsense. Am I right?
Yeah, no, that's right. And just to tie it into one other issue we have coming up is welfare reform. And Paul Ryan has been an expert on that and leading on that for a long time. But I don't think some of the folks on our own side see the contradiction between these two policies, right? So we're going to do welfare reform on the one hand for able-bodied workers, right? After the recession of 2008, the financial crisis, Greenspan and Bernanke said the greatest damage to our economy is not going to come from losing half of your asset value, which is trillions, right? The greatest damage is losing the workforce skills and the 20 million people that may not get their life back, right? Because they're going to be trapped into these poverty programs and poverty traps. And so that's what Paul Ryan's life's about, trying to get these people back, having productive families, kids, meaningful jobs where they can go up live the American dream. That's what we all want. And so we're going to be pushing for that for 20 million people. Paul Ryan has said 25 million people. At the same time, we're going to do DACA times 3 or 4, right, for chain migration, and you're dealing with 3 to 4 million new people given a new status in the U.S. Dreamers would be 12 million plus. Plus, we let in 1.8 million legal and illegal immigrants in the last year we have data for, 2016. CIS just came out with that study. So that's minimum, you're talking 2 million plus 3 or 4 million, and that's 6 million people coming in, right? And so you're going to displace American workers again while you're trying to pull those same American workers back into the workforce. And so the unemployment rate looks low, and I know this is a lot to pack in, but this is all just standard statistics. The employment rate's 4, but it's really 8. If you put those 20 million people back in the labor force looking for jobs, the unemployment rate jumps right up to 8%. So the labor force isn't doing as great as we all think because we have so many discouraged workers
right.
That are American citizens
right.
that are parked on the sidelines, and no one cares about them.
Right.
Right, and that kind of shows the philosophical split, right? Who's looking out for them?
Right.
And the answer is that not many, and the Republicans are doing a better job on giving them some dignity. And so that's always, and then just as a footnote, I'll mention, I get fact checked every time. The New York Times did a fact check on me on those numbers I just gave, and then they put published reports in there to show the true numbers, and they're the numbers I just said. And so it's an amazing, strange day out there in leftist media land.
Well, look, you're spot on, Congressman. There's no question about it. And another thing that went unmentioned, and the New York Times actually reported this, is now companies are now hiring people that they turned away in the past, including those that have been out of the labor force for some time and those that have a felony on their record or have done time. They got turned away in a tight labor economy because you had too many applicants that didn't have that stuff or that had relevant experience in a shorter period of time. Now they're returning to the labor market, and companies are now willing to hire people who did their time, had a felony, and have straightened themselves out. Isn't that what we want?
Yep.
I mean, isn't that the goal?
That's spot on. And what you'll notice from the left is a lot of rhetoric and language, but you will not see any fix for the Obamacare problem we have, right? They have no fix on paper, no bills.
Right.
They have no fix for the budget.
Right.
They have no fix for economic growth.
Right.
They have no fix for DACA on paper that makes any sense whatsoever. They just kind of want a fantasy world,
right,
where they say the Judeo-Christian tradition doesn't work.
Oh, we got
the rule of law
it.
And the police are bad guys.
Right.
Free markets and business are bad.
Right.
I mean, boy, the American people. they need to start processing what the left is saying, and then we'll get back to winning again.
We got to take off. Dave, thanks for being with us. More
You bet.
information, go to davebrat.com.